On yesterday's stream, Wizards of the Coast showed us off the Summer of Legends, which will include both Modern Horizons 2 and the Dungeons & Dragons set, which is like Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. Alongside this, we got a load of previews of interesting stuff. I'm going to talk about one in particular that I think is kind of nuts. I will talk more about the D&D stuff and more Modern Horizons stuff next week. I'm going to have a prediction video next week, and we'll talk about the legacy of Modern Horizons 1 next week. There's going to be quite a bit of talk around it, because I am genuinely very excited for Modern Horizons, and I'd love to know in the comment section below what you think as well. Don't forget this video is brought to you by channelfireball.com, your premier source for a, well, soon to be a marketplace to pick up your Magic the Gathering cards and sealed product, Ultra Pro with their wonderful deck boxes and sleeves, and of course, the love of my Patreons too. If you want to support the channel directly, check out the link in the description below to my Patreon. This, my friends, is Urzas Saga. It is named after a set, which was Urzas Saga, famously the gear set symbols, a set that came out in 1998. And also heralded a time of some quite broken Magic. This is a set that has had a lasting impression on Magic the Gathering. Not only is it like the big Urza story block after all the Brothers War stuff, but also brought us things like Teldarian Academy and Gaia's Cradle, among many other cards that have, well, become staples in the Eternal formats. So, Urza's Saga is mechanically a saga, but it's also a land. And sagas, as you know, are enchantments. This is an enchantment land, Urzas Saga. So a quick rundown of what this is and why it's so exciting. So first of all, it is a land, so you play it for your land drop for the turn, and then it gains the ability, upon you playing it, where it triggers its first Saga uptick, to get a Saga, a Mythos counter. I forget what the counters are called. It gets a counter, and it gains the ability to tap for colourless mana. Noting that it doesn't get that until end of turn, like most sagas will. This means that you can tap it for colourless mana on turn 1, the first turn of having it, the second turn of having it, and the third turn of having it. Its second uptick gives it the ability to create what we are calling colloquially a construct. That is a construct, that is a 0/0 that has text that says it gets +1/+1 for each artifact in play. We've seen these coming off Khans before. We've seen the Urza from Modern Horizons making these. They're called constructs because it's kind of an emulation of how Urza made Khan. And then lastly, on its third pip, in fact, you get 1 pip per main phase, you get to search your library for an artifact card with a mana cost of 0 or 1 and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library, and then you would sack this. I know it doesn't say that, but sagas always sack when they hit their final act tokens, counters. Oh, I don't fucking know. This card is wild on just a level of complexity and weirdness that I absolutely adore. I'm reading it, and although I'm getting it, there are elements of it that like just are coming to me over time. People are saying other things. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Like there's so much taste here. There's so much flavour and nuance to what it's doing, but I'm not grossly bored of reading two halves of the same MDFC like I was with some of the Strixhaven Deans. So what's new here? Well, firstly, it's an enchantment land. We've never had an enchantment land. Well, that isn't strictly true. Enchanted Prairie was a dual land that came into play tap for blue and white, and it was in the test card slot. The slot that made a lot of Redditors froth at the mouth with rage at the point that they're meant to look like test cards. Anyone could draw this. Anyone could draw. I didn't draw it. I didn't come up with it. I didn't create any of this sort of thing or the assets of the game, but anyone could do this. Raged their Redditors. Anyway, the point of this is that the test cards are not for constructed players. They clearly state on them there were extra cards inside the mystery boosters that could be drafted when you're drafting Mystery Booster. Mystery Booster Convention Edition especially was one of the most fun draft experiences I've ever had, and I'm really glad to see that some stores only in America are getting more packs of that later this year as part of the promotion for the Summer of Legends. These test cards were not only test cards in the sense of trying to look and mimic the test cards they would play with when testing new sets, but as I think Gavin has gone on record as saying, I shouldn't say that, I think Gavin has gone on record as saying is that these are also kind of, and Mark too, as like testers for the future. Things that show up in these test cards may show up in cards in the future, and we've been seeing this with some of them, and this is an example of that. Now, it's not a huge stretch because obviously Enchantment Lands is a thing that logically you'd think would happen. We've had Artifact Lands in the past, but where Artifact Lands cause so many problems, because Artifacts is probably one of the most busted card types in all of Magic, I guess they were apprehensive of doing the same with Enchantments. I would guarantee that if Artifact Lands didn't have to get banned out of Standard, When Affinity first came around with Mirrodin, we probably would have had enchantment land cycles in either Theros or Theros 2, but finally we get it here in Modern Horizons 2. Now, one of my predictions on Monday when I did my predictions video, which is in the future from now, was going to be that enchantment lands would be in this set, because I feel like it's time. I feel like it's something they want to explore. Unfortunately, I now look like I'm just saying that because we've seen this, but I'm wondering if we will now see a rare land cycle akin to these Enchanted Prairies, or whether we will see just enchantment land basics. Now, would they be broken? Well, they make Serra Sanctum and Legacy a lot better, and it will obviously improve Enchantress decks across all formats. One's looking to use the Constellation mechanic or number of artifacts you control mechanics. So, maybe, but they were so keen to push the power level in Modern Horizons 1, I'm expecting a bit of that in Modern Horizons 2, and this could be a place they do it. So how good is the Urzas Saga land, considering it's a saga that sacks itself? Well, I think this is very strong. It's a land that disappears after 3 turns, and a lot of people are very apprehensive of that, but don't forget City of Traitors, which I know is a soul land, so it's a lot better in many ways, but Urzas Saga isn't that different to City of Traitors in terms of having some downside later for the explosiveness you get out of it. Urzas Saga alongside a soul land like a City of Traitors or an Ancient Tomb can make you a body on turn 2 if you've got nothing better to do. Further to that, the downtick of 3 allows you to go and get something that replaces this. Now, initially when I read it, I thought, well, you just go get an artifact land. You get a Seat of the Synod in your mono blue deck in Legacy or in Commander, and you're basically just replacing itself, whilst also getting the ability to make a body on turn 2 when you're doing nothing else in Commander or Legacy. The problem is its mana cost, not the newly established mana value. Now, I've made a video ripping on people for hating the new mana value over converted mana cost discussion, but this actually proves to us that changing to mana value gave them space to have mana cost mean something on cards and mean something very different. So for this, you can go get a 0 mana cost or a 1 mana cost. So you can go get your Mishra's Baubles, you can go get your Pithing Needles, but you can't get Walking Ballista, you can't get Engineered Explosives, and you can't get Mox Tantalite or a land, because all of these things here aren't costing 0 or 1. Their converted mana cost, or in this case mana value in the new wording, is 0 or 1 respectively, or depending on what you put into it, but they are not literally 0 or literally 1, which is what is denoted by mana cost. Now, of course, there could be some clarification of this upon release to say that's not the case, but honestly, I'm pretty sure we're on the money for how that works. This thing is exciting because it could be incredibly powerful, it might be deceptively not very powerful. I am excited myself to try it in specifically mono blue Aeons in Legacy, because it's a land that can go and get me a Lion's Eye Diamond to allow me to really pop off on the turns like 3 through 4. Beyond that, I think this is a card that may be a one-off in vintage decks and is definitely a commander card. Like, it is colourless, so it has a chance to become a staple in most decks. And most importantly, on its 3rd pip, it can go and get you a Mana Crypt or a Soul Ring. When your land blows itself up to then go and grab you another 2 mana for Soul Ring, and then you can replay the Saga off your Crucible of Worlds or your Ravenant Excavator. Yeah, this thing is gas. The main thing about Urzas Saga is I think it's one of the best early reveals we've had for a set in quite some time. It is so bizarro, so like, well, wait until you get a load of me. Like, if this is the first thing we see, what are the mythics going to look like in this set? And I also love the references. The fact that it's literally named after an old set that is incredibly important. The set that gave us Gaia's fucking Cradle and Tolarian Academy. I think that's just... I'm trying to be articulate here, but I think it's just fucking super cool. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think this card is hype? Do you think it's not as powerful as people are saying? Are you hyped for Modern Horizons 2? Or are there things about it that you just can't get hyped about? I'm going to talk next week about the price of it as well, distribution, and so on. So more Modern Horizons next week, and I will talk about the Dungeons & Dragons set in another video too. In the meantime, smash that like button, smash that bell, and I'll see you all soon. Ta-ta for now.